Hello everyone, welcome back to Bare. I'm Stephanie. Today's video will be a review as well as a demonstration on the new L'Oreal palettes. There are two palettes, palette 1 and palette 2. I picked up the nude palette in number 2. Looking at both of the palettes, they do have a description on the actual display that states one is geared more towards people with fair or light skin tones up through medium. And then number 2 is geared towards people with tan skin and deep skin. Number 2 appealed the most to me, specifically for these jewel tone shades here at the end. The texture of these shades are smooth. They really do feel like a high-end formula. I'm not necessarily surprised about that because it's L'Oreal. L'Oreal owns so many of the high-end and the luxury cosmetic brands out there. I wouldn't be the least bit surprised if one of the cosmetic researchers from that brand is up on this palette. I mean, they did a really good job. It's 10 great shades. It will work with a lot of different eye looks. You have one palette. It's great for travel. It's sturdy case. And most of all, it's a drugstore. For us in the USA, L'Oreal brand is a drugstore brand. So we can walk into any drugstore and find this at a deal, hopefully, if there's a sale going on. We have coupons. We have the means in USA to get this palette at a good price. The textures of the shadows are very smooth, not only to the touch, but right when you apply it onto your eyelid. When you dip your brush into the shadows, you dip it in, you get your product on your brush. You're not going to see powder go every which way. It's actually going to stay on that brush, and right when you apply it onto your eye, boom, it's there. So that is fabulous. Okay, here's the caveat. When I first started to use this palette, I primed my eyes the way I normally do with a primer, go in with my brush, and I applied the colors, you know, whatever shades that I wanted to happen to play with that day. I noticed that the shades were very light. So the second day I used an eyelid primer that was a little bit more wet, had some slip to it. And then I applied the colors again, and I noticed that the shades got a little bit richer, very close to what you see in the pan. So the third day, I sprayed my brush with MAC Fix Plus and went into the color, applied it on my lid. Suddenly, the color was rich, it was vibrant, it was just as good as what you see in the pan. I'm not necessarily pleased with this whole Goldilocks complex going on here with this palette because I don't like the fact that for me to pull out that rich color that I see in the pan, every time I'm going to need to spray my brush. I want to just go ahead and dip it into the color and get that same payoff. Your best solution is to wet your brush. So now we're going to look into the shades themselves. Shades 1 through 10. I did swatch them on my arm. Did not put any primer, nor is my arm wet. So keep that in mind when you are looking at the shade. That is shade 1. That makes an excellent brow bone shade. Shade 2, which kind of goes right into my skin. That is shade 3. That is the coolest tone color in the palette. The cool tone brown, brownish gray I would call it. Shade 4 and shade 5. And shade 5 I like to use as a tear duct color. So those are the shades 1 through 5. Next we have shade 6, which is a matte chocolate brown. Shade 7, which is the shimmer chocolate brown. Shade 8, cool tone purple. Shade 9, which is just a little bit deeper, still cool tone. And then the warmest shade, which is shade 10, which is the deep plum. So shade 6 through 10. Shade 1, which is shimmer. Shade 2, shimmer. Shade 3, matte. Shade 4, matte. Shade 5, shimmer. Shade 6, matte. Shade 7, Shimmer, shade 8, Matte, shade 9, Matte, and shade 10, Matte. So now that you've seen all the swatches, let's take a look at how I apply some of the colors together to create an eye look. And I'm actually wearing the same eye look in this video. Let's take a look. I've already applied all of the colors onto the lid. I'm just gonna apply my makeup brushes with my MAC Fix Plus, and I'm gonna go in and just kind of make it a little bit more stronger, try and get some more color out of it. I'm done with this eye, and it looks much more pigmented than before. As you could see, it's because I've added some Fix Plus to it. So I'm going to go ahead and show you how I got the eye look. I'm going to put on some eye primer. This is Jessie's Girl eyeshadow primer. And we're going to put that all over the lid. So for the brow bone, I'm using this matte shade at the end, and I'm using this shimmer shade right here, the second one. I'm using my ArtNet 123 brush. This is actually a painter's brush. So I'm just laying down the matte shade first as like a base, and really it's just a way to use up those really light shades that don't really seem to appear much on us with deeper skin tones. Spray that, and that's going to be my brow highlight shade right underneath the brow. Okay, so next I'm going to go in for my crease color. So right here is what I'm going to be placing all up on top of my hood, so on top of my crease, which is right there. And I'm putting it all across my lid, my hood crease. Second to the last color, that shade is going to go right here as my inner eye, but I'm going to stop as where my arch of my eyebrow is, because I'm going to put another shade there, and then that's going to be an outer V shade. So I'm going to need to wet my brush again, and this is my Chanel number 2 brush. Dip it in. Hear the dog crying. She's spoiled. And go about 2/3 in the lid. Shimmer shade right here. It's like a silver shade. Wet my brush. See, this is what's annoying about it. I gotta keep wetting the brush. And I'm gonna go in with that shimmer shade, and that's gonna go right in the middle of my lid. And this is my another Chanel brush, but I don't know the number because it's wore off. I think it's like number 4 or 1. I'm also applying that as my tear duct shade. So I'm going to use my MAC 23, I think it's the 239 brush. It's another number that's worn off. Wet it. That's the trick here. And I'm going to go in with this dark, the last shade here, which is that beautiful plum, beautiful purple, and apply that right on the end of the lid as the outer V color, and blending that into my crease as well. And then I'm going to take my MAC 224 brush. This is my favorite blending brush, and then just blend right into the crease. Kind of diffuse any of these lines here. I'm going to wet my finger, because I just noticed it was so hard to get this metallic shade to really place on the lid. It works better with my finger. Oh, I don't like that when it works better with my finger. It should work just as good with the brush. Okay, but you know, that's what this is. That's how you're learning. We're learning how to use it. We're learning how to use the palette together. Okay, now I'm going to go in with my NARS smudge brush, and I'm going to smudge on the lower lash line again, this last shade here, the deepest shade in the palette, and place that color right on the lower lash line. I hope this review and the demonstration and the swatches has been helpful for you for the L'Oreal palette in number 2. So if you do own the palette of number 2 or even number 1, let me know down in the comments how the shadows, how the texture, how the color payoff is working out for you. Thank you very much for stopping by, and I hope you all have a wonderful day or evening. And as always, I'm gonna see you in the next video. Bye. I did finish my C20 from OST. This is the vitamin C in the dropper serum.